announcement, as we have yesterday also told the participants that there is slight change in today's schedule. So you please make a note of this, that the seventh session, okay, today means the second session of today, that is there is some slight change. So from 11:45 to 12:15, we will be having the session on mental health, a paradigm shift by Dr. Nirjari K. Parikh. Okay, and from then 1:15 to 2, you will be having, sorry, up to 2 p.m. you will be having break, and from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. the session on thermal energy storage by Dr. Rakshit Dibakar will start. Okay, and then it will be followed by uh, another session that is on stress management by empowering the mind by Dr. E.V. Swaminathan. So you make a note of this change in the schedule. Okay, so it will be, your break will be up to 2 only instead of 2:30 today. So you join by 2 p.m. for the afternoon session, and okay, it will last up to 4:45 today. Instead of relieving you to by 4 p.m., you will be relieved by 4:45 p.m. Okay, so that is the change. Okay, now moving to the morning session of today, we are having Dr. Sachin Mandavgane from VNIT Nagpur. So I will briefly introduce our speaker. So Dr. Sachin Mandavgane is presently working as associate professor, and is also former head of the chemical engineering department in the Visvesvaraya National Institute of Technology at Nagpur. So he is holding doctoral in chemical engineering from the prestigious Lakshmi Narayan Institute of Technology from Nagpur, and his research areas include biomass and waste utilization, biorefinery, sustainable engineering, and also scientific validation of traditional sciences. He has, to his credit, around 125 publications and 6 patents in his name, and he has so far guided 9 PhDs. He has developed a process of making lightweight and thermal insulating construction material using paper mill waste. So his technology of making ultra-fine powder neem biopesticide is purchased by 20 plus companies till now. And he designed and commissioned a potato peel biorefinery plant, which is the first of its kind globally. His process of on-farm paddy straw digestion to manure has successfully completed pre-commercial trials. So as you know, this is a very serious environmental issues nowadays in North India. So he's also working in this area. He offers consultancy to industries to perform life cycle assessment, and is also leading R&D projects sponsored by Government of India as well as some private industries. Dr. Sachin is also an awardee of Fast Track Young Scientist Research Grant from the Department of Science and Technology, and is also holding an advisor for innovation to corporate houses like Merino Industries Limited, and is also working as coordinator of Grassroot Innovation Center. He also mentors some of the startups, to name a few, like Sustech Solutions, which works in the area of sustainability issues, and Bhumitra Laboratories and Soil Case, that is working in the area of organic farming. And one important contribution by Dr. Sachin is also he frequently experiments innovative teaching practices. So he's having an active YouTube channel which is entitled Students Innovate, which is very popular among young engineering students. He also received FICCI's Higher Education Award for his innovative pedagogy in 2014, and is also offering a course on innovative design to nurture open and inclusive innovations. And he's also one amongst the few who started a credit course on sustainable engineering in our country. He is also the Honorable Governor's nominee to Management Council of YC Maharashtra Open University in Nasik, and he was also the Maharashtra State Nodal Officer of AICT's initiative to support Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. He contributed to Niti Aayog's task force on doubling the farmers' income by developing biorefinery-based agri-business module. He was a special invitee of MHRD's NIT Curriculum Review Committee. He was the national coordinator for Young Scientists Conclave and outreach program under India International Science Festival from 2015 up to 2019, which is considered to be the largest annual science festival organized by Ministry of Science and Technology. So we are fortunate enough to have such an expert amongst us, and he is having a lot of industrial experience, particularly in the area of waste valorization. So, as you are aware, from the very first session of Principles of Green Chemistry and Engineering, so his today's talk also will revolve around the seventh principle of green chemistry, that is use of renewable feedstocks. And he has aptly selected the topic, that is waste to wealth, few case studies of agro waste biorefineries. So we hope that we will get mm, some experience sharing of refinery. So thank you very much, sir. I am
Thank you.
over the session to you now.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Jadeja. Uh, in fact, my association with Dr. Jadeja is through his guide, and his guide has done MTech from the same institute from where and the same lab from where I did my PhD. So Professor Naik from IIT Delhi, and he all the way helped me a lot in my initial time of research. And yeah, so we'll move to today's talk. I will start sharing my screen. Yeah. So the talk, I will off my video for better this thing. Otherwise, there is a bandwidth issue many a times on Google. Yeah. So we will go through a couple of case studies of agro waste biorefineries. See, I have organized my talk in the following way. We will first discuss about the concept, the fundamentals of biorefinery. Few of you might be knowing, have heard about this word biorefinery, but there could be few for whom the biorefinery word might be new. So initial couple of slides are devoted to the biorefinery concept, so that all of us will come to the same ground of understanding biorefinery. Then the next part of the talk is for the biorefinery experiences that we have gathered in last 4 or 5 years. A couple of things that we have experimented in lab, couple of things we could take from lab to the industry. So those are the things that I'm going to share with you. Those are my own experiences based on the work that we are doing collaboratively with different laboratories and industries. That is second part. And third part is I would like to share a couple of videos with you, which are very exciting and interesting. And so this is, and last part is about challenges. What are all the challenges in commercialization of biorefinery? What are all the challenges in handling waste? The social impact it's going to have, the economical impact it's going to have, what could be the business models? So this is how the total talk is divided into four segments, right? Uh, and before I start my talk, formal talk, uh, intermittently I may ask questions. I would expect some kind of interaction. Maybe you can put it in chat box, right? uh, See, there are there is extensive research on receptivity of the audience. So when I'm scared when one has to talk for say 60 minutes or 60 minutes plus or time. In the online mode, I know a couple of you might be faculties. In the online mode, this is a totally different way of interaction in a sense that the receptor is in isolated situation and receptivity, which is otherwise close to 6 minutes to 8 minutes. So if you are teaching in a classroom, your student, my student, can have the receptivity maximum up to 6 to 8 minutes, right? And in the online mode, that further drops down. So it's a challenge, right? So I will try that we will have some kind of distractions, purposeful distraction after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right? So that we can come back to the main topic. I mean, I will try for that, right? Okay. So, uh, I remember there was an election somewhere in 2001 or 2002, and it was a Delhi election, a Delhi state election. I don't remember because that time I just finished my BTech, and but I still remember that there was one slogan, very famous, which became very famous during during the campaign, and one party announced that we will give you roti kapda or makan. And when, because traditionally the basic needs of any human being are roti kapda or makan, then that time mobile and those things were just introduced, right? Then somebody said that now the basic needs have changed. Now the basic needs have become roti, kapda, makan, and mobile, right? So so these are the four. We cannot imagine living without roti, kapda, makan, and mobile. And today morning, I received one very interesting forward where they said that you must have, many of you who are listening me must have done Navratri fast, right? So they were saying that the new generation fast is, can we live one day, 7 days? During Navratri, there might be few who must have done bina namak ka, bina pani ka, है ना, या शाम को पानी पीना. So the message which I received in the morning was one day without mobile, right? 7 days without Facebook or WhatsApp. I mean, these are the new ways of fasting, because fasting is basically for disciplining your mind, right? So, but the point that I want to make before you is that the basic need of mankind is roti, kapda, makan, and now let us add this mobile also, right? So the if you look at around, you will find that you require energy. You are now interacting, you are listening to this through mobile, through laptop, through tab. It required electricity. It will run only through electricity. We required heat. We required transportation fuel. They all comes under energy. The second most important thing that is required is organic chemicals. We cannot have life without organic chemicals. Just look, we require plastics, we require polymers. Organic chemical has become and polymers have become part and parcel of our life, right? At the moment, more than 90% of energy, 80% of energy, and 90% of organic chemicals in the world are derived from fossil fuel alone. We were discussing maybe 6 7 years before. I had one intern with me, and we were discussing the how the evolution has taken place, how the evolution in the manufacturing has taken place. Now you will see that the key raw material for deriving energy or for having organic chemicals, right, or having polymers, they all are basically from crude oil. Those who might have read about the history of Middle East, you will know that this crude oil in the Middle East is somewhere in that the development in mid 50s, 1950, somewhere around that, they accidentally got hold of this crude oil. But before that, What was the source? We had our First World War. We had in 18th century. So what was the source? The source was nothing but coal. So the coal was the starting material, and there was nothing like chemical engineering. The word like unit operation, unit processes, they came into existence somewhere between the First World War and the Second World War. Then we have before that, somewhere in 1800, for example, you look at the biggest revolution which has taken place is because of the steam engine. Once we started steam engine, then we have this industrial revolution. What was the core? The core was coal. So, and what is coal? Coal was once upon a time a wood, and wood over a period of time get converted into coal. And what is crude oil? Crude oil is once again, it was once upon a time, it is highly, as far as the crude oil is concerned, it is highly condensed, very high energy density material, right? But as far as its gotra goes, it all contains carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So, crude oil that we have was once upon a time coal, which was once upon a time a wood, right? If you go further, before, what was there before 16th centuries, 15th century? Those who might be following Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, there is a section called Rasa Shastra. And in Rasa Shastra, it's all about unit operation and unit processes. And the manufacturing processes which are given in which are followed in Ayurveda are mentioned in Rasa Shastra. You will find distillation, you will find steam distillation, you will find liquid extraction, you will find size reduction, you will find the, see, look at the kind of Ayurvedic product we have. We have bhasma, we have fermentation process where we get your this what you call that, which has close to 8 to 10% alcohol in it. I'm forgetting the name, but tablet, then churna, all these are some, and even this bhasma. There are now published papers, articles that bhasma is nothing but nanoparticles, right? So it's a green path. Then there are very nice papers where they have said that the green path of making nanoparticles. So the thing is, before that, we have all these jari booty, nothing but the biomass in a different forms, the herb in the different forms as a source of raw material, right? Now look at what we are heading towards. There is very interesting article which was published in 2015 in AICHE, and it was it is about the perspective. So what would be the next generation source of carbon and hydrogen? Right now, the source of carbon and hydrogen is your crude oil. So what's going to be the next source of carbon and hydrogen? And the prediction was the next source of carbon and hydrogen is nothing but your lignocellulosic biomass. Look at the cycle that we are going through. Right now, or maybe 50 years, since for last 50 years, we are using crude oil. Before that, coal. No doubt, all these things are nothing but derived from the biomasses. Once again, now we are heading towards the bio-based products, bio-based economy, circular economy. I mean, that's the sphere in which the entire economy, entire civilization is moving towards, right? So what is the motivation? Why one need to think, discuss, deliberate on biorefinery? There are two basic reasons which I found. One reason is that we need to move away from our dependency on the fossil fuel, right? That is one. And on other side, we want to address farmers' distress. As far as the government has made announcement for doubling the farmers' income, but as far as the doubling the farmers' income is concerned, merely increasing the production is not a solution, because if you increase the production, you will have the, once again, with the demand supply. If you have more supply, the prices will crash. So we need to come up with a very innovative and a different way of so one of the option is the value addition. One of the option is that how can we make use of this agricultural waste, which otherwise doesn't have a value, can fetch some kind of value, right? And while doing so, we would be addressing two national issues. One is moving away from the fossil fuel, which we are mostly importing, right? And second is uh, second is how can we make use of the agricultural waste, the bioprocess waste, right? For meeting our needs of energy, organic chemicals, and polymers, right? Now let us understand the biorefinery. I know many of you are from chemical engineering background. We know that as far as the
गुड
petroleum
मॉर्निंग।
refinery, there might be few faculties who are from the petroleum refinery or
एग्जाम कैसा
petroleum
था?
background
टफ था?
also,
क्या था?
right?
कैसा हुआ?
So in case of petroleum refinery, we use the starting material as crude oil, right? And look at the process. We have one starting material, and from one starting material we make arrays of products. We make gasoline, we make diesel, we make kerosene, tar, platform chemicals, right? So we get different section of different fractions. And but the starting point is one. The starting point is crude oil. Using crude oil, we are getting the arrays of product. So what do we do in case of biorefinery? So in case of biorefinery also, we are going to make use of the same principle, the core principle. We are going to have one raw material, which is biomass, the bio feedstock. But it should give me the required products. Like it should give me fuel, it should give me energy, it should give me chemicals, it should be I must be able to produce polymers also, right? So that is what the biorefinery is. In case of a biorefinery, I'm going to make you just like a petroleum refinery, but instead of a crude oil, I'm going to make use of some bio-based feedstock, but I am going to make the arrays of products. One raw material, multiple products, maybe in a sequential form, right? And what we are doing is we are looking for taking into account the economy of the entire process. What we are trying is so high value, low volume products. So maybe we are coming up with very specialty biochemicals, which are very high value, but maybe present in grams, milligrams per kg. So, but it's a like for example, if I talk about tomatoes, right? Because I just come to know that many are from chemistry and chemical engineering background, so I can cite such examples. Look at tomatoes, right? We have lycopene. Look at gende ka phool, the marigold flower. We have lutein, right? These are the products which are very less in amount. I'm going to discuss with you about the potatoes and the potato peel. During my introduction, it's told that we have come up with the biorefinery of potato peel. Potato peel contains polyphenols. It contains nutraceuticals, but the amount is maybe 100 pp, 200 ppm, right? So milligram per gram, not ppm. I should put it as milligram per gram. In some cases, it is milligram per kg as well. But the value is extremely high. And I can go for high volume, low value. Something like I'm going for composting. When I'm going for composting, the volume is huge, but the value is 6 rupees, 8 rupees, something like that. Right? So to maintain the balance between the high value and the low volume. Right? Okay. So sequential extraction. Instead of using biomass for single application, let's have multiple application and an integrated way. I can make use of agricultural residue. I can make use of peel, seed, grass. We are going to discuss about peels and seed of citrus, typically oranges. Since I am from Nagpur, I'm going to discuss about oranges also. And because of this, the overall carbon footprint decreases. The reason is you are not making only one product. You are making arrays of product. So you have a process. So if I go with the allocation, the total carbon dioxide which is emitted for the process will be duly divided, right? So the carbon emission per unit mass of the product that I am producing is less, right? I will show you one paper where where we have done this thing, and it gives me a smart circular economy. So this is what the background of comparison between the petroleum refinery and the biorefinery, right? I hope this initial understanding is clear for you. Now we'll move to more details. Let us try to understand the biomass. Biomass is any jhad, pauda that all fall under biomass. And how to classify it? This is a very nice classification given by Methi in his review, which is published in 2015. Those who are interested, they should read this review, part 1 and part 2. Very nicely, Methi from IIT Hyderabad, he has written this review. So we have energy crops, we have agricultural residues, we have forest waste, we can have industrial and municipal waste. So what falls under energy crop? Sweet sorghum, bamboo, then wheat grass, right? So these are the typical things. Typically grass, different types of grass, it all falls under energy crop, right? Then we have agricultural residue. I know in Gujarat, you have a lot of groundnut, you have cotton also, right? So once you take out the fruit or the flower of cotton, the leftover are the stacks, right? It doesn't have any value. As of now, mostly they are burned. Look at husk. Husk is nothing but, for example, if you take a chawal, so the rice grain as a cover, right? That is typically husk. Or you take the your even groundnut shell. The groundnut shell, they are used in biomass briquettes, right? And they are burned. But that is not the very economical way of use. Anyway, people are using. I know there is a plant, Godrej plant in most probably in near Bharuch. They are using it, right? It's very commonly used. Animal manures, cattle, chicken, pigs, right? So we have published recently one paper about how cow dung and cow urine can be a source of feedstock for making arrays of product. And we have published that case study. Unfortunately, I have forgotten to add that. Anyway, I will discuss about that as well. How the cow dung and cow urine are the two feedstocks. From that, the arrays of products can be made, a kind of a biorefinery. Then we have forestry waste and residues, biomass resulting from forest management operation. जंगल में जो पत्ते पेड़ पौधे ये सब गिरे रहते हैं, पत्ते हैं, एंड द ड्राई लीव्स एंड मरे हुए झाड़ है, डेड है, डाई हो गए. So that all falls under the forestry waste and residue. Then we have this industrial and municipal waste, typically food processing. We are working with a couple of industries related to their waste in the tomato processing, waste generated in orange processing, waste generated in potato processing, right? So for example, in case of potato, when we take 1 kg of potato, the waste which is generated is close to 300 gram to 400 gram, right? And then we get the flesh of it, which is starchy material, which is used for making your this thing, wafers or French fries. There's so many products. In Gujarat, you have this Balaji, big group. which is in the business of potato. And not only so, in one, I think near Saurashtra, or I am exactly not knowing the geography, but the potatoes from Gujarat are very, very famous. The Gujarat is one of the largest producer of potatoes from, and even your West UP. West UP is Mathura, then Ghaziabad, Hapur, right? Meerut. That is the area which is the West UP, and they produce a lot of Madhya Pradesh, Chhindwara. They produce a lot of potatoes, right? Now, so this is the classification. Then let us understand the categorization. We'll find that some feedstock contains oil, the triglyceride based feedstock, typically vegetable oil. Then now we have microalgae. So it's the lipid based, the triglyceride based biorefinery. The second can be the sugar and the starchy material based biorefinery. The sugar beet, sweet sorghum, sugarcane. A lot of work has been done on bagasse based biorefinery. What people are doing is they start with sugarcane, right? They take out the juice, and the leftover is your bagasse. So from the bagasse, what can I do, right? So bagasse based biorefinery, that is sucrose containing biomass. We can have starch based biomass, maize, corn. A big plant is coming in your Raipur, where they are going to use corn and maize, basically corn, for making bioethanol. And the first step is that removal of starch, and so it's going to be a very big plant of starch, and then they may probably sell that starch as it is, or they might use it for other applications. Then the lignocellulosic feedstock, wood, straw, grasses. I'm going to discuss with you the grass-based biorefinery. In Ireland, it's a very interesting biorefinery which has come up. It is on farm. That's the beauty of it. So it's a big farm, and on farm itself, this has been done. It's a basically dairy farm. They have a couple of cattles, and for cattle fodder, anyway they are growing grass, and the grass, instead of using only for as a cattle feed, they are extracting three very, very important products. Very One is whey, another is nitrogen based extract. I'm going to show that also, right? So these are biomasses. So whatever the different types of crops, different types of plants, you look around, you'll find that they will fall somewhere. Either they will fall under, they put at, you can classify them or you can categorize them, right? If you are just going, you are traveling on the roadside, you find that a lot of dry plants are there, है ना? सूखे है, grass है, even your Congress गवत है, yes, that all falls under this lignocellulosic feedstock, right? Okay. Now, this is very important. What we get from the petroleum biorefinery, which meets our need of energy, which meets our need of organic chemicals, and which meets our need of polymers, right? The petroleum refinery makes the following building blocks. They come up with syngas. They produce olefins. The olefins are ethylene, propylene, butadiene. So it is typically C2, C3, C4, right? Then you have aromatics. So aromatic is a ring. You will get benzene, you will get toluene, you will get xylene, right? So these are the building blocks. So you get a small olefin, unsaturated two bonds. You get aromatics, you get ring, right? And you can get syngas, you can get methane, you can get hydrogen, and the different composition of syngas, right? So these are the smallest and the most flexible units that you get. And making use of these three categories, we produce the petrol. From that only the different types of organic chemicals and polymers are manufactured. Right? So what petroleum industry does, petroleum industry or any petroleum refinery, they have these products. They can have more than this, but these are the fundamental, most basic products. Right? Now, so coming back to the basics, we start with crude oil, and from crude oil in the petroleum refinery, we get 1, 2, 3 syngas, olefin aromatics, right? And from here, the other manufacturing takes place. In case of a bio-based platform, what we do, this has been categorized. I think it is 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then yeah, but this should be 12. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 11, 13. 12, 13, 14, 8, 14, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, 12. Right? So these are, so if you are making use of any feedstock, bio-based, I mean, if we are going with a biorefinery, then these are the feedstock, these are the platform chemicals, right? The building blocks. And from this, we can come up with either useful energy products, useful chemicals, and the possible polymers. Right? Few of you might be working on bio-based polymers. You'll find that we can have something which can be used among this 5, among this 12, which can further lead to make the bio-based polymer. Right? Somewhere people are using on polylactic acid. I don't find lactic acid here, but recently the bio-based platform chemicals are revised. Right? So now I'm moving to the case studies. So before I move forward, if anybody has any doubt, anything to ask, we can. So no comments, I'm just going through comments. Okay, nothing. So I will now start with the case studies, right? Okay. So I'm going to share with you the potato biorefinery. Then I'm going to discuss with you about the orange biorefinery, and then I'm going to discuss with you about this rice. Rice and wheat, I mean, that is basically straw-based biorefinery, right? And we'll go through these examples one by one. Yeah, as I told you, as far as the potato biorefinery is concerned, so potato biorefinery, a pilot study has been done. The pre-commercial plant will be coming before Diwali. Maybe by first week of November, we will have pre-commercial plant. What Merino does, Merino basically in the business of laminates, but they have one vertical as Vegit. In case of Vegit, I will just show you about Vegit so that you will have fair idea about that. Uh, yeah. See, these are all products under Vegit by Merino. They make all this ready to mix. Aloo bunda, pav bhaji, then you have aloo mesh, veg cutlet, right? So all these aloo based products. And if you go through this, you will find. See, generally what happens, as I told you earlier, 30 to 40% is waste because of the peeling. There are two types of peeling. One is abrasion peeling, जो हम घर में करते हैं ना, आलू को छीलते हैं. And second is steam peeling. In case of steam peeling, the potato is exposed to the high pressure steam for few seconds, right? And when it is exposed, the surface of the potato get loosened and the skin get loosened, and then you brush it off the skin. During this peeling, some amount of starch is also get peeled off. So you have peel potato skin, and along with the potato skin, some amount of starch remain attached to that, right? And that's a big loss. And that loss somewhere 30%, 40%. Now we have this potato waste, potato peel along with the starch, right? This is our starting material. Presently, Merino is composting it. Anyway, they are making use of it. But we are now looking for the high value products. So what we have done is we have separated the peel and the starch part. And the starchy part is then fed to the anaerobic digester, which is generating biogas. Then we got a pill, and from the pill, we are extracting nutraceutical polyphenols, and we are extracting protein, and we are extracting dietary fibers, right? And from that, we are making the probiotic and symbiotic. I mean, we are making symbiotic. We are loading probiotic over the potato pill. I'm going to show you a small video of the entire work. Right? So the project is funded by Department of Science and Technology, and the industrial partner, they are taking care of entire pilot plant, the manpower in on their campus, right? Okay, so this is about the first case study. So, and as I told you, we are coming up with these antioxidants. We have gallic acid, we have hydroxybenzoic acid, typically polyphenols. We got flavonoids also. And then we have this protein rich dietary fibers. The protein content is close to 15 to 17%, and dietary fibers are close to 63 to 65%, right? But the real challenge from the engineering science point of view is separation and recovery of ultra dilute solution, because these polyphenols and antioxidants, they are in ppm, they are in a very small amount, right? So the selective recovery and selective separation is the chemical engineering science challenge. And fortunately, we have good collaboration with the chemistry department in VNIT, Dr. Anupama Kumar. She works on the selective separation and recovery. So one of my student is working with madam. So we have two joint students who are working on the separation and recovery of ultra dilute solution, right? And so this is about the first example. Now let's move to the second example. See, all of you might be knowing that Nagpur ke santre is very famous. The few of you who are attending, maybe from Punjab, Haryana, or might be from North India. They have they come across kino. Kino is also a kind of oranges, but the uniqueness of Nagpur oranges is its flavor. And this Nagpur division annually produced 1.85 lakh tons of oranges. But because of many reasons, maybe say untimely rain, or maybe poor storage, poor transportation, every year 32, once again the number may vary, but close to 50,000 ton is waste, right? So the waste is of two type. One is unripened oranges which are fallen down because of the untimely rain, or the overripened because of the poor storage or poor transportation, right? But the farmers do not get money for the waste oranges. So there was a so this is also a DST sponsored project where there was a call for a region specific problem statement. So it's very specific to Nagpur region. So you'll find these oranges. This is typical orange mandi in Nagpur. Now we have oranges. We get oranges. We have two seasons. One season is this somewhere mid of October up to mid of January, and then we have another season from mid of March to mid of May. Right? Okay. So this is typically what we are trying to do, and Professor S.N. Naik, Dr. Jadeja's PhD guide, is one of the investigator in this entire project. Here we have two options. What we can have is a waste orange, right? Then there we are in consultation with couple of industries, but because of COVID, things are not able, could not materialize. Where they are in the business of making orange pulp or orange juice. So for them, the potato peel is the best. So either we can have the sorry, not potato, orange. Either we can have waste orange, where the peel, as far as the flesh, the inside fruit part, both we have to take care of, or we do have to take care of only the potato peel, right? In a process plant where they are making use of juice, the leftover is your pomades and the peel, right? uh, is saying, first of all, we this is the pilot plant. Probably if next time if I want to talk, I can show you the video of pilot plant. The pilot plant is under construction right now, where we will be taking out essential oil, and essential oil, pectin, ethanol, syngas, finally charcoal, right? But in between, we are even trying to extract valuable chemical from essential oil, right? The distillation of essential oil, atomic distillation, that gives me the further fractions of essential oil. It's, as far as the pectin is concerned, pectin is a nutraceutical. It is even the gelling agent. Those who might have a food technology background, they would know about this pectin part, right? And ethanol, I mean, this is something everybody knows, and this is what we are trying. We are now the lab experiments are done. We are now going for a 100 kg batch of orange waste, right? Okay. Yeah, there's some statistics as far as pectin and essential oil. We are importing mostly from Brazil, right? And the import data is given, and essential oil has its own market in pharmaceutical, in cosmetics, in personal care also, right? But essential oil in orange pill is just 1%, right? So one or just little less, around maximum 1% is the. But pectin content is very good. Pectin content in orange pill is close to 22% to 25%. The pectin is generally extracted. This is typically called as citrus pectin, but the pectin we get is from apples also, right? Okay. The third case study is about the straw-based biorefinery. The straw is you get this rice straw, wheat straw. From newspaper, में you will at least on TV channel you will read this word parali. Parali that is used there, that is leftover. Once you take out the grains, the leftover is your straw, right? And traditionally, this straw doesn't are burned by the farmers in the agricultural field itself. So the ratio is the assumed residue to crop ratio is 1:3. It is 1.3, sorry, it is 1.3. So if I produce 1 kg of crop, 1.3 kg is my residue. And in Vidarbha region, we have cotton stack, we have soybean, we have wheat. So a lot of waste is generated. So yeah, I'm going to show you what we have done. This is a very interesting thing which I would like to share with you. See, uh, as far as this burning of parali, burning of paddy straw in North India, typically Punjab, Haryana, and other places. Recently, you must have seen that Arvind Kejriwal has posted, and there was some newspaper articles also where they said that they are going to spray some liquid on the farm, and it will in 21 days it will get decomposed, right? And this is precisely not precisely ours is a quite different process. We are coming up with a value added compost, but when this issue of paddy straw burning and pollution in Delhi come, Prime Minister Office and even Department of Science and Technology, Department of this Ministry of Environment, MOEA, Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, they are extremely concerned because it has become an international news, because the capital of the country losing the visibility and people are putting masks and all those things. And every time it used to take place during November, during Diwali, then there are so many social issues of banning firecrackers and so many things, right? So there were two task force, one task force by Niti Aayog and another task force by Ministry of Agriculture. What are the possible options, possible solutions? They come up with different possibilities, like pallet making, then you can convert it into biogas, then bioethanol, then you can, but the most sought after, both the committees, the Niti Aayog committee, the Niti Aayog task force, as well as the agricultural ministry task force, they very categorically mention that it's ideal, most ideal, that the residues are sent back into the soil. I will tell you the reason for that. The plant during its growth phase, it takes the minerals, it takes your nutrient from the soil, right? So if you take away this straw from the agricultural field, you are depriving the soil. So it's logical that we should send the minerals and the all inorganic part back to the soil so that we complete the circle. So on farm utilization, so that whatever taken from the soil during the growth phase, it's sent back to the soil, right? And that is what both the committees have recommended. And we took that as our starting point, and we have developed on farm where the decomposition will take place and some amount of gas will also produce. The compost has a very good quality. Because the real challenge in decomposing or of degradation, decomposition of straw kind of a feedstock is very high carbon to nitrogen ratio. It contains very low nitrogen. The carbon to nitrogen ratio is somewhere between 50 to 54, right? The method that we have developed brings down the carbon to nitrogen ratio somewhere between 10 to 12, right? So I'm starting this video. It doesn't have a background music. It's interesting to see. Soil incorporation will have long-term benefit, right? And most importantly, decentralize on farm. So what we did, the uniqueness is we have come up with this culture. The microculture is our contribution, and we have come up with a unique method of two-stage fermentation. Fast digestion, ease of operation. The farmers can do it on farm. We don't require, only electricity required is shredding, no chemical, nothing, and it's a dry fermentation, so we don't require water as well. And immediately biogas start formation. Of course, biogas formation is very less. Have paddy straw, pulverize it to 2 to 5 mm, mix equal amount of water, then add a culture. We are adding biomass ash, which acts as a catalyst, and just put it into anaerobic digester or pack it in plastic. Not plastic, but some kind of. We are going to see one reactor. Then we put trichoderma. Then trichoderma with aerobic treatment. This is what it is. Finally, put trichoderma. Main digestion, bringing down the carbon by nitrogen ratio from 55 to 15, 17 takes place. Then we put trichoderma. We put 7 batches. This is the presentation we made when on 15th of August we made this technology available for public. So we did in this reactor, and this is your part 2, that is aerobic digestion. Yeah, this is typically for farmers. Farmers can do it, make a pit, and in the pit you can do it. We meet the FCO standards. This is what I was telling you. The main degradation takes place in the anaerobic phase. So we are now, what we are working is on the crop specific. You won't find any product in the market where organic compost is crop specific, right? We generally have a compost, right? Kechua khad honga, you can have a city compost, but we don't have, you don't have any compost which is crop specific, right? That is what we tried. That is what we are trying right now. We are going to make the crop specific, right? Okay. So this is another thing about this is ongoing project of DST. This is in collaboration with Indian Institute of Chemical Technology and GKVK. You have GK. I think it is Karnataka government's agricultural university, and we are making very comprehensive value-added product. My role is make extraction of levoglucosan from bio oil, so I'm concentrating more on high-value products from the bio oil, right? Okay, fine. We will not go much into details of this. Right now, what we are doing is we are working on tomato, onion, banana, pomegranate, pineapple. I mean, all the tropical fruits peel we are working on, right? And our core area is extraction of high value chemicals, right? Then have fermentation route, then finally manure, right? So as I told you in the beginning, high value but low volume products, and second is high volume but maybe low value kind of a manure, right? Okay, this is done with my part of work. what we are doing. Fine. I want to now share with you. So we have covered first, as I told you in the beginning, the first part is about biorefinery, basics of biorefinery. Second part is about the hands-on experience of my group, where we people are working together about straw biorefinery, potato biorefinery, and orange biorefinery. So that's work from our group, right? So the next part is I want to share with you a couple of very interesting biorefineries which are globally available, right? Before going to the next part of, we are going to watch a couple of videos now. 2 minutes video, 3 minutes video, very interesting video collection is there that I'm going to share with you. Before going for that section, if anybody has any doubt, anything to discuss, we can pause for a while.
Sir, this is Mehul Desai. I have
Yeah,
yes, I have one query that
please.
the value-added chemicals that you are extracting, that phenolic compounds and all that. So, are you separating each one or making an extract only?
No, see what we are doing, sir. Initially, we are taking out the extract, right? And after extract, we are following two paths. One path is use the extract, which is the concoction of all polyphenol, and take the things forward, right? So there is something called food fortification. In food fortification, I don't need to separate individual polyphenol, right? So if I'm going through a food path, I will make use of the food, the entire extract as such. But when I'm going for a pharmaceutical based application, then I have to make the selective separation. I need to separate gallic acids, then I need to separate your which there are, I have forgotten the name. I will just go through that. There in that case, we are going, yeah, say fuleric acid, comeric acid, right? So we are working on both. We are working on selective separation also. So in a mixture, I have 4 polyphenols. I am selectively separating one, first, second, third.
Okay, sir. Okay, okay. So, sir, in that usual column chromatography is preferred or any
Column
novel?
chromatography, we
Yeah.
see initially we thought of SMBR. SMBR is simulating moving braid chromatographic reactor. We found it very, very costly. Then we are now developing adsorbents. So surface specific adsorbent. So for example, and that is where our work is from the science point of view. But of course, what you are saying is right. People are using chromatography. So
Yeah.
we initially use when we don't have SMBR, we have modified our existing HPLC into your selective separation for that. So we use chromatography, but we could not take it forward because of the equipment cost. So then we shifted to those adsorbents.
Okay, sir. Sir, there is one more query. That
Yeah,
is how the pills have been collected. What will be the method to collect the pills?
yeah. That I will answer you in the 4th section. That is the most difficult question,
Okay,
because the
sir.
entire success lies there. Because technologically you can make everything possible, but when it comes to scale up and actual commercialization, the real challenge in any waste based material is the collection, right? So anyway, I will answer your question. See, there are, let me see, I have a slide on that, or I will show you the slide, or I will explain you. I think yeah. See, these are the possibilities. One possibility is we can have a decentralized model. Now, in case of oranges, we are working on this, right? What we have done, we are interacting with the farmers because near Nagpur we have a cluster called Morshi. Morshi is the largest producer of oranges, right? So of farmers, there are farmer groups also. We are talking with those farmers. I mean, the student already spoke with farmers, and we said that we will do some primary work on the farm. So maybe at a taluk place, maybe at Gram Panchayat place, we can have some machinery which can be mounted on your five-wheeler or maybe chota truck, right? That is part one. Part two is at mandi level, because in mandi under the Swachh Bharat, what you call that, Sarvekshan. Under Swachh Bharat Sarvekshan, how the municipality, how Nagar Panchayat, they are taking care of the waste. It has some points, right? So we are now this is in the discussion phase. First part we have already talked with agricultural farmers, and only because of COVID things are now delayed. Otherwise we would have done with the farmers. Second part is about this mandi. Mandi has heap, so we can have, and anyway these mandis and all those places. But the challenge there would remain that we need to have a biorefinery, which is not only for citrus, because oranges will be 2 and 2.5 months in say March, April, and half of May. Here, October, November, and December, or maximum January. So we need to have a process which can cater the other peels also. So one is farmers, second is mandi, and third is what we are doing with merino. Merino, we don't have to worry for merino, because merino anyway is processing close to 10 ton to 14 tons of potatoes every day, and they are producing 6 ton of potato peel waste. So I have a potato peel at the source. I need to have a source, right? So if I can catch hold of a processing plant where they have this waste, life will become much easier. But if we want to go into social entrepreneurship model, we can have some kind of decentralized way. But collection of waste is the biggest challenge in the, that is the weakest link in the entire what should I say, um, product development chain, right? Technologically things are possible, that's not difficult. Technologically people like you, me can discuss thing, and we can come up with some solution. But socially the things are very difficult. Rice and wheat straw work is great. What will be planned to implement across India? Yeah. As far as implementing is concerned, rice straw plant of 20 tons is underway. It is already been fabricated. Maybe we were expecting somewhere in November, but by December, January, the conversion of paddy straw into value-added compost. See, I will tell you the economy. The economy is, if we just make organic manure compost, it costs not more than 6 rupees. Nobody will pay you more than 6 rupees. But if you do value addition, I'm working with Bhumitra. Bhumitra is a startup, and if you Google, you will find about Bhumitra. Bhumitra is young boys. They are with me for last 3 years, and what we have done in Bhumitra, we have come up with granular compost. You will not find, I don't, if anybody have seen granular compost, you just, somebody can ping me and tell me. What we have done, value added compost in through Bhumitra, where we have granules and we have some valuable nutrient. We added some additional micronutrient. We added some additional microorganisms, so that now the economy has changed. The product which is otherwise costing 6 rupees is now we can sell at a cost of 125 or 25 rupees, 20 to 25 rupees, right? 6 रुपए की कीमत value addition with value, of course for value addition there is cost for that, but the value added product has a more value. right? So that is what we are trying, and that has been successful last 3 years. And Bhumita has received Maharashtra government's award under Startup India, Startup Yatra kuch tha, agriculture category mein they stood first. So that is there. So only thing is that creating some high value out of that. And second thing what we are trying is pyrolysis of rice straw. And when you get oil, when you get biochar, another area that we are working extensively is on the use of biomass ashes. See, sometime during my talk I told that in Gujarat we you have this groundnut shell. योर आपको हिंदी में क्या कहते हैं, मूंगफली, मूंगफली का जो छिलके है, दैट मूंगफली के छिलके आर श्रेडेड एंड they are made into biomass briquettes. You get ash, right? So we are working on biomass ash. We publish a lot of papers, close to 25 papers are on our biomass ash only. Recently I got one project from BRNS, bark, where our entire focus is how can I make use of this biochar and biomass ash as a partial supplement to the conventional fertilizers, and how can we improve the soil quality, physical properties of soil, and the micronutrient uptake by the plant, right? So if we are going in the pyrolysis route or thermal route, you will get gas. You anyway make use of gas. You will get char, but char has to be engineered properly so that it can go for agriculture. And the oil contains a lot of valuable chemicals. So extract it. And that all makes the thing economically viable, right? And Purti group is with us for this thermochemical treatment of rice straw, paddy straw. Is this idea is fine if the availability is near to farmer? Why not their work is toward a small scale on solar base near to farmers and taking the waste and provide the biofertilizer to the farmer? Any idea of government to provide it? No, no, Raj Govil, I am not aware of this. Anything is like there, right? Okay, so let us go to the, there are a couple of interesting videos. We have last 15 minutes, so we should finish that as well. Yeah, I want to take you to a couple of videos now. See this video, I'm so fascinated by this video. This is from Ireland, and they are making use of grass, right? And I was so amazed when I watched this video, right? Let's have a look at this. right? Very interesting. I'm so fascinated with this video, extremely fascinated. I never thought that, yes, even the grass can create so much of value. Oh, I need to pause it. Okay, so uh, let's go to second. In this, if I mean you, we have more detail about the grass only. From Ireland, from the same group. Right, the same one. Let we have less time. Same. Anyway, I'm going to share everything with you. This biogas plant is worth watching, but instead of that, let's go through this Burugad biorefinery. This is much better. right? So interesting. So I am now, I will almost finish. I will share those remaining videos with you. I spoke about this social impact. We have somehow discussed about this import substitute chemicals, right? Challenges, these are real challenges. Feedstock diversity, you don't get same feedstock every time. Even if I want potato peel, if the potatoes are from Gujarat, potatoes are from Madhya Pradesh, potatoes are from UP side, skin is different. Collection and transportation, right? Economical viability. So for that economical viability, what we realize is that we need to have one high value product that will decide. So slowly we are now shifting towards the enzyme part also. So how can we extract, so enzymes, nutraceutical, dietary fibers, there are some high value products that we are slowly shifting towards that. Then machineries, when the machinery, because we will get big machineries which are available, but say for example when we want to have this compost plant in the farm itself, probably we require machinery which is hand operated, easy to operate. I don't want big equipments, a shredder, something like that. So machineries are the challenges, right? And technology foresight, where the things will move, and because presently biogas economy is booming, but where exactly it is heading towards, right? So those are the challenges. Fine, something which has already been discussed during my presentation, my introduction. So these are a couple of papers. I will, you can find out something which I am more interested to talk about, but that we will do some maybe later, is about this. Where is that? I do have. Uh, uh, cow base. We have two papers on cow. One is about the biorefinery of cow, right? So something that you can search on Google, you can find it out. Fine, right? So thank you. I have finished 5 minutes ahead, and I'm now we can have some kind of discussion. If anybody wants to ask, interact, we can have some interaction.
Thank you, sir. So there is some query again from participant. That is, what are your views if agriculture waste like rice and wheat straw, sugarcane bagasse, groundnut shell, if they are converted into cutlery to avoid plastic?
Yeah. There are startups we are which are making cutlery, and in fact, the CSR has a laboratory in Trivandrum. They have developed many cutleries, and using this straw-based material, and it's a huge market, no doubt about it. Then they at least making use of banana stem. People are making use of that, right? And if you go to couple of right now we don't have these conferences, but typically the conferences which are for green chemistry or something sustainability, the organizer makes sure that the cutlery is made up of all this thing, right? So that's there. Is there any IPR generated on presented case studies? As far as IPR is concerned, uh, we have filed patent for the microorganism that we have developed for composting. So that is one. Second is about the method of extraction, effective extraction of polyphenols that we have recently filed, and selective separation. The real challenge is when we are working on material like potatoes, there we have to make use of the solvents and everything which is potable, right? So we had to think a lot. It took close to 1.5 years. Two research scholars are working. I'm thankful to the research scholar. I'm thankful to Dr. Mrs. Anupama Kumar. She is from chemistry background. So those things are under pipeline. So there are 3 IPRs which we have filed. Such a nice eye-opening knowledge. Oh, thanks, Mahendra Tamta. Thanks. Anything else?
Okay, so any participants who are online, if you want to share anything or ask anything to Dr. Sachin.
So 118 people are there. I hope all are listening. Otherwise, what happens when I take online classes? People log in and God knows who listen. I hope people have listened.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good.
Okay, so
Right?
if there are no questions from the participants, okay, I hope there is no question now. So it's okay. Thank you, Dr. Sachin, for accepting our invitation. I and sparing your valuable time and throwing some insights into practical aspects of implementation of this biorefinery concept, how to make it actually workable on ground level. So it's a very nice presentation. I hope all the participants might have enjoyed it. And I thank you once again on behalf of all the organizing coordinators of this FDP. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Jadeja sir. Thanks to all participants for all the way listening. You can reach out to me. We can find out some common interest. Dr. Meghal, Dr. Jadeja, we can find out some area of common interest, and we can take the things forward, right?
Yes,
Because
we will
there
look
is a
in.
lot of scope there, and one thing for sure, we required people across branches. We required people from agriculture background, biotechnology. Right now, we want somebody who has a very good understanding of finance and marketing. So when we are working on such a kind of project, it's all interdisciplinary, and a lot of insight from different branches are required. We have microbiologists working, agriculture background people working, soil microbiologists working. So among the participants, I hope participants are from varied background, varied expertise, right? For the larger interest of the society, we can share some ideas and we can do some joint work.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Sure, sir.
Thank
Sure,
you.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Over to Dr. Meghal.
Thank you, sir.
So should I leave now?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks so
sir.
much.
Okay.
Thank you. So, dear participants, we have a short break of around 5 to 10 minutes, and then we will have a session starting from 11:45. That is on mental health, a paradigm shift. That will be for 30 minutes. So 11:45 to 12:15. Then we will have a break, and our session will start. Another session will start at 2 p.m. That will be for 2 to 3:30 p.m. And the last session, which is stress management, okay, that is shifted at the last. It will start from 3:45 and it will be of 1 hour, so 4:45. So within, you can say 10 minutes, we'll start our next session. Stay tuned for that.